Benchmarking figures, extremely important. There they are all there. Look, they don't mean a damn thing to you. Don't be taking any of those in. All I wanted to point out to you is I have a comparison of the last 4 years. I know why there's changes in those. If I went to the grassland one, wherever it is there, our costs were very high there for 2 years. They went down a bit, and last year next to nothing. The weather was shit, they couldn't do it. So I didn't spend any money on it. That's why it's low. The vet medicines, that's tended to be quite high because we're pedigree. We're using and that's included within that, are the pedigree administration work, as in making them official, etc. But the point I'm making here is that I understand why there's a change in all that. And that's the important part. But down to the blue line, kilograms of dead weight produced per hectare, that is the big figure to me. And that's the figure I want to work on each year. Now, I've anticipated this year I'm coming down to 276. I know, beginning of this year, on the first week of lambing, we lost 12 ewes, we're putting their intestines out. Far too good to them during the winter. The grass was fantastic around Christmas. We brought them in too fit. And when we had them in fit, we looked at them as normal we would. And they come out far too big. The lambs were a kilo ahead, averaging kilo up in the previous years. And you know yourself, that brings trouble in. We didn't have to bring a vet in because they know how to die themselves. Ah, dear. my own records this year, for example, now looking into it, but producing lamb at 220 before labour, that's what it was, as I showed you a moment ago. That has gone up 10p this year on the figures that I'm looking at the moment. It might actually be 15 pence on our costs. The meal prices are in. But the one thing I do know is that 429 has come down to 386. Now what has stood to our advantage in that is that the commercial side was 403 against 342. We managed to sell, and it's something I found out from the figures, we're managing to sell breeding stock at a very good price. When you work out the live weight gain, the dead weight price of, say you sold a 30 kilo lamb at the same prices for breeding, goes on somewhere else, and you have a 40 kilo out into the market, but they got the same money. I didn't have 10 kilos to put on that. Of course, that breeding stock, and that's young breeding stock going out, that makes sense. Let's go to more of those, and you'll see on our programme in a moment. Just with these, that's all I'm doing is pointing out there. We're up 10 pence on our costs, and we're down 60 pence on our returns. So there's 70 pence, £14 a lamb, 1,000 lambs, 14 grand. Very simple in one move. So I'm living on last year's. I used it in building a new house. Don't we all? It's always the last house you're going to do, isn't it? Right, one other point. This is getting back into figures. I hope I don't jumble it too much on you, but working with 740 ewes. We have the farm set up that one person can run that. Because I talked about the farm manager. He's also looking after the fencing yard. The lorries are coming in. There are wooden gates to sell. We've got our handling facilities in one house. And it's very fortunate the way we can bring that in. But if you ever get the hooter born up in the top yard, somebody's in to buy a gate. And there's you not well down there. She's going to die anyway. Get away up and sell the gate. That's going to make you money right away. It's very simple. But then go back down and see if she's still alive and good enough, keep her going then. But she'll wait. Because I know there's money in the top yard. Oh, I told you, there's mouth. Oh, never worry. Right, what I'm pointing out here is there's that 210. That's what we talked about before. If I had 1,000 ewes, the labour's cost me the same. That cost on labour's down 155. That's bringing another £160 a hectare into my programme. But our biggest problem there is getting land. I'm only living on a 40 hectare farm. I rent another 30 hectares. 40 hectares is the average in Northern Ireland. That's our problem. And land is very valuable. Twice the price of what it is over here. And that's why they leave here to go to Scotland to get twice the land and come on better. But anyway, we actually took land 5 or 6 miles away. And that doesn't seem much to you guys. That's a wild distance to some of the boys in Ireland for all the distance to travel. 5 or 6 miles away. We took the time to travel that every day. We took the time to transport the animals and the time it took us to go and work with them there, backwards and forwards. That added £35 a hectare to the price of that land. So we just take land beside us at less than £35 a hectare than what the normal price is. That's all about costings and why I would give a little more for the stuff at home. At present now, we're stocking at 6.5 ewes to the acre. That is a high stocking rate because we haven't got much ground. And that's why we house, to let the grass grow during the winter. So when we lamb in April, with something to put out, and there's other reasons we follow on that. But another reason in there is that we're working with 55, 65 kilo ewes. A lot lighter than what we did when we had the Texel and Suffolk crosses. 90 and 95 kilos. Actually, it's a lovely story there. Every year is always full of stories, Charles, haven't I? We have vet students come in every year, except last year, which was just one of those years. But the vet students are nearly all girls coming in now. The majority of the students in veterinary are girls. You ask that vet student to catch a 95 kilo ewe. It's like a chariot race. Then her wouldn't be in it. You give them the 55, 60, that's magic. They go in and do it in a different breed, and that's why we changed the breeds we did. Again, I emphasise, this is what suits my farm. It doesn't mean I'm going to mention breeds here. It's what suits my farm. I'm not going to get in any discussion about different breeds and different farms. You need to know what your own farm is and what suits it. So down to 55, 65. We had them housed, you see a house later on, 30 Suffolk Cross, 30 Texel Cross, 30 Cleland. 55, 60 kilos, 85, 95. Block of silies in front of them. 2 days, 2 days, 3 days. Absolutely no different when you take them out to the field, the grass that they're going to eat. But what are they pulling behind them? They're all pulling a lamb and a half behind them. So what does that add up to? A lot more lambs per hectare, more kilos per hectare. Now, okay, I'm going away from quality. There's a simple one there. E and U get you what, 10 pence or 20 pence a kilo more, which is 2 or 4 pounds more a lamb. If you've 10% more living lambs, which you will have in the easier care, I emphasize the easier. There's no such thing as easy care. Easier care. 10% on a lamb, 6, 7 pound compared to 2 or 3 pound. Duh. Beauty doesn't mean a thing. It's the numbers, it's the money, and that's what we depend on. God, I don't like it up here. Sorry. This is the way we split our flock up. Now, no, we've never had them semen tested, but we have them inspected, and we look at them thoroughly to see if the rams are good and look as if they will be great fathers. We're not frightened to put one ram out to 100 ewes. I've put a ram out to 140 ewes. This year we put 11 rams out to 840 ewes. One of the rams at 90, the other one at 102. Off the 840, after the first 15 days are over, the keel is put on the rams and they're swapped round to another flock, but the one ram to the one flock. That means that I can go and buy a damn good ram, £2,000, and put it to 100 ewes. Now if I put 2 or 3 rams of 700, not the same background, not the same figures behind them, what I brought in is great progeny because of figures, because of growth rates and everything. I buy them in that. We're not buying them and just, oh, that looks like that won first prize of such and such. So long as it's won first prize of such and such and it's got great figures with it, it's worth it. But on somebody else's hearsay, it doesn't just mean enough to me in that. So what we're pointing out here is pure flocks. We're still getting the sales on these breeding sales, so we're going to work with that. 40% of them are in the Cleland. We're into the Primera and the Highlanders. Yes, I'm happy with them. The AFB work, I'll leave that for a moment. The maternal flock will be the next one. Now, the Cleands are split into 3 groups. The ones that are the great figures, as in good figures from the pure side, and they're upgraded, they're kept in that quality flock. I've learned to be a pedigree man now, a purebred man now. Our best Clean go commercial. They go to the Primera ram. Now, the ones that are better than the best, you see where I'm going? I'm a pedigree man now. The ones that are better, they go to the Highlander to keep progeny, crossbred progeny. And the very, very best stay pure Clean to build that nucleus up, to make them better right through the whole thing. But the interesting thing that we've got from it, and when we follow through in the live weight gains, the Primera on our worst Clean are the best growth rate. So the hybrid that we're talking about works fantastic on them. The worst growth is from the Texel and the Clyn. The Texel that we have, I re-emphasise that, I restate that. The Texels that we have obviously aren't as good as some of the other ones that there are around the country, because I do know the Marks and Spencer trials that took place up in Bowhill, there was very little difference between the Texel and the Primera. But when it down to the slaughter side and these were sectioned off and they took the prices on them, this is where the processor wins. But don't blame the processor. I'm not blaming the processor. There's no system change yet. But when they took, the hind end was great on the Texel, great legs. But what was best in the Primera was the rack. And when they costed all those out, the Primera came out £2.50 better off a lamb, but it didn't have the back legs. The one that the dogs fed to, somebody said. The dogs finish off. The point of that shows the Euro system doesn't work. And yes, I'd love to see the ultrasound come in and get us paid, as they do in New Zealand. But look, sorry, I'm going to take all day here on this. I'll move on. I'm going to show you what the flocks are roughly about and fly through in this one here. The purebred flock, as you see, the pure Clyns, as I was talking about, will have the pure Highlanders. They're the ugliest damn sheep I've ever seen in my life. And to be honest with you, they produce a great ewe lamb, but the male's not too happy looking. The progeny from it. It takes them longer to finish, but they are not a terminal sire. They're a maternal sire. And I'm proving, I'm getting a hybrid between that Highlander and the Clyn, and they're coming through into the third year now, and they are showing really good on the Primera finishing in those, and beating even the Clyn. This is what I mean. All my records, I believe it because I've seen it in the figures. I don't believe it because somebody else told me or somebody else says it does not look great. Not like that at all. The other thing too I would very quickly cover, brings a smile to your face, but the one ram out to 100 ewes. People, it takes a lot of faith in that, but Hillsborough trials, we've been involved in that now 10 years. We've done it for 10 years. Touch wood, nothing has gone wrong. But what always amazes me is that one ram out to 100 ewes comes in a lot better fleshed, a lot better body scored than what if you put two rams out to the 100 ewes. But what happens there? It's like some of you boys going out on a Friday night and you're the only one on the dance. Are you going to run around everywhere? I don't think that. I think it'd be a queue, but that's what happens with the ram. He stays in one place, they all come to him, move on, next please. Doesn't use the energy up on it. Simple, facts of life, the basic things of the species of the world. But that's another reason why we're working at it if you had three, and it's they're just racing around all over the place. And of course, again, I bring back the emphasis on buy a damn good ram that you know the background to, and make sure you're getting a lot of progeny from that ram. That brings your cost down on that high cost and that high price you paid for the ram.